welcome back to new Dram Drinker. This video is a little bit about putting the brakes on the channel just slightly, because we've been having a few conversations with some subscribers and they're still having a little bit of a struggle with the nosing and tasting of whiskies. I chatted to a subscriber recently, Ian C. He's a good friend of mine as well. I'll pop him up here just so we can get a bit of a shout out. And he's still having a little bit of a struggle with like the nosing and the tasting. Like I said, he feels like, I think, that we're picking out all these different flavours in our videos and other YouTubers that he's watching, and he just can't quite get there with what's been like tasted yet. And he basically asked me if I have a method for how I taste whiskey. And it was quite a weird question, because I didn't actually realise that I do have a method, and it is simply C.A.K.E. I think if you watch a lot of our videos, I tend to always reference cake, like pastries, like cream, butter, caramel, vanilla, yeah, like the sponge. There's lots of different things. They always seem to be fairly cake orientated when I'm doing the sherry whiskies. I know Nick's got a completely different, not a different method, but she always seems to visualise places and like a seaside side with the sea spray and the seaweed and the coldness of the wind. Hers is very visual in a place kind of way, whereas mine is more a food visualisation kind of way. So I'm going to go through it just to give him a little bit more of a chance, and maybe some of you guys who don't actually think to visualise your like nosing and your tasting kind of flavours, because it's a strange thing to do, to imagine a food that you're eating while you're drinking something. It's a bit strange, and it's not something I did at the start. It just seems to have evolved as I've kind of on the journey. So let's start with the visualising and fleshing out this kind of whiskey. So basically, C.A.K.E. is the word. So we're going to start with C, and that stands for the colour. So I've got a nice whiskey here. So analyse the colour, just give a look at it, just think what you can see. It's nice and golden. It just looks really nice and rich. Some whiskies you'll get a lighter, almost like a wine. Some you'll get which are very, very dark. But yeah, I'll just start yourself off with the visualisation of what it looks like and whether it looks like it's something that you think you're going to enjoy or not. And I think it's a lovely golden colour. Obviously, not wanting to get too specific, some whiskies can be coloured, so it's not really a kind of indication of quality sometimes, but this one isn't. So, and that is a lovely colour. So yeah, so then we'll move on to A, which is aroma. So that is basically another word for nosing it, but just give it nose. Yeah, you can get all of these things. So this is where the visualisation part starts now for me. I start to nose it, and I can start to get some like sponge cake, and then you've got kind of, if you're struggling to pick things out, I think this is where the method starts to kick in. If you're struggling to pick things out, think of that first thing that you got. So mine was a sponge cake. Trying to think of things that actually go with that sponge cake just as you start kind of, you're almost your recipe for the cake. So you've got your sponge cake. What else could possibly go on there that would go nicely? So let's have another nose. So we've got some raisins that comes through. So let's pop some raisins on there as well. And I've got some vanilla. So let's stick some of that on there. Now I've got some brown sugar. Yep, brown sugar for sure. So let's pop that on there. And you can start to see that most of these things that I'm getting off this whiskey all go in a perfectly fine cake. You could have a cake with the ingredients that we're saying here and have a perfectly lovely cake. So let's go in and go, what else could we have on that cake that we might be able to get? Yep, so I've got some like cream or ice cream, maybe vanilla ice cream going on there as well. So then we'll pop that on there. Yeah, and I think we'll leave it at that. But you can see now we've got a perfectly lovely cake. That recipe that we've just built is beautiful. I would eat that. So we've got the recipe. So now we need to move on to the K, which is the kick, which is the flavour kick. So we're going to drink it, and those flavours are going to kick in. They're going to start coming into your mouth, and they're just going to sometimes there'll be subtle kicks, sometimes there'll be a really strong, powerful kick that overrides everything else. You've just got to try and kind of, like, same method again, we'll use the same method again, and just try and pick the things out. So let's get rid of that, and we'll move on and we'll start again. So instantly again, because we know what we've nosed, and a whiskey doesn't always taste how it noses, so just bear that in mind. The 1 minute it could be a cake, the next minute it could be a barbecue or something like that on the palate, so it does change. This one is it's a pretty standard whiskey, so it doesn't seem to change that much. It is still, I've got the cake ingredients again. It's the sponge cake, it's the raisins, the vanilla, the cream, the sugar. I mean, it's a very sweet, very, very sweet cake. What else can we get? Maybe a bit of almost like ginger on this one a little bit, so pop a bit of ginger on there as well. Yeah, bit of ginger, so we'll put that on there, and I think that's pretty much it for this one, because I haven't picked an overly complex whiskey because I didn't want to go too deep and kind of scare you all off. So again, we've got a perfectly lovely cake. A little bit more came through. We got a bit of ginger this time, which we didn't have on the nose, so that's nice. We picked something else out again, so that's a little progression in our kind of palate over our nose, which is lovely. But yeah, but then at the end we've got the E, which is evaluate. So that basically means, do you like it or not? I mean, at the end of the day, you can go for the finish, whether the finish changes, which is what's left in your mouth once the liquid's kind of gone. It just sits in there a little bit longer and you've got a little bit going on. But mainly, just evaluate it. Just think, do you like it? Do you not like it? Would you drink it again? Do you still want to keep on drinking it? I mean, that is mainly the be-all and end-all of drinking your dram, isn't it? It's whether you enjoy it or not. If you don't, you know. I think this is another conversation I had with Ian, and it was that he'd had a fairly expensive whiskey in the past and didn't like it because I think it was a bit too advanced for him. So got rid of it, gave it away. You know, just like took it down the pub and gave it out. And it was a good whiskey, but I didn't want to tell him that, so it ruined his day. So I said to him, and I say to you now, if you buy a bottle of whiskey and you don't like it, don't throw it away. Don't give it away. Give out a few drams as samples to friends if you want, because it's, you know, all in the sharing. But just stick it to the back of your shelf, and then in 6 months' time, come back to it. We had an Ardbeg at the start, and we hated it. It's one of my favourites now. So just, you will evolve. So just bear with it. So getting back to our topic, which is cake. So remember, you've got your C, which is colour. You've got your A, which is aroma. You've got your K, which is your kicks, and you've got your E, which is your evaluate. Now, you can create your own over time or stick to mine for now. It's only a very basic one, but to start with, it's perfectly fine. Just follow it, keep that in your mind, create your own. You might do it a different way completely. And like I say, if you've got anything that you want to share in the comments to help other people kind of learn a little bit more, we love that. So comment away, just crack on. Fill the comment section with different ways of doing it, the way that you do it, that you find the best, the things that you visualise, whether it's places, people, I don't know, like food, just share it all, and that is basically it. So I hope this has helped. Just remember again, cake, and enjoy your whiskey, guys. That's what it's all about. I mean, just enjoy it. Even if you don't need to nose and like taste, you know, you don't need to evaluate it every time. Just drink it and enjoy it. It doesn't have to be a kind of experiment every time you drink a whiskey. Sometimes you can just sit there and enjoy the thing. It doesn't need to be kind of analysed. So that's all I'm going to say on it. As we say here on New Dram Drinker, pour it, drink it, enjoy it. Cheers, guys.